Hi everyone, it's me, Tracy Nieuwenheyzen-Petersen, and let's talk about the day in the life of a social worker. So, in our last video, we spoke about decision day, choosing the path of social work, the calling, and all of that. I would say for me, day two is choosing your path of study. When I say that, I mean like how are you going to become a social worker, which direction are you going to take when studying, basically. So there is various paths. I am going to make this very clear. I'm not a professional, I'm not a academic advisor, I'm not a student advisor or anything. Just sharing my experience when it came to studying and getting to becoming a registered social worker. So my path was a bit unconventional. I think I've mentioned this in some previous videos, but I initially studied at private college. I studied bachelor's in psychology, so the B Psych. Due to various circumstances, which I will share again in another video, I did not complete. I think I was like 5 modules away from having my B Psych in psychology, but I don't think I would regret it. I learned a lot studying psychology, and it also helped me to choose my second major when it came to studying social work. Um, from there, life happened. I kind of took a gap year, and then I applied to UNISA to study social work via distance learning. So for me, I was very content studying by distance learning because initially I had my student life in the first qualification I studied. I enjoyed myself, I had the exposure to being a student, being on campus, the whole environmental changes, the culture, and all of that. I would say that is very important in life in general, having that kind of exposure, the cultural changes, exposure to other cultures and other environments. It really helps in defining you as a person or you growing as a person. So that part I would never regret to never take away, but it is what made me content with studying distance learning. And also when I started studying distance learning, I was working full time, so for me it was basically the only option, but it wasn't an option that I regretted in any way. I would say it is challenging. Um, in general, being a university student is challenging because it's not like school where there's someone behind you. Did you do your homework? Did you do this? So when you passing that, and if you don't do it, nobody cares. If you don't hand in something, no one's gonna ask you. If you're not in class, no one's gonna check up on you. It's you and you are the one standing behind yourself. You need to have self-discipline, you need to find your balance. But that's also why I say, the being exposed to all the cultures of tertiary education, it really grows you and shapes you and molds you into a person you can be. Not everything is gonna be successful and sunshine and roses and all of that, but every part of it is gonna contribute to who you are going to become one day. So, for me, there was challenges in studying distance learning. I would recommend that before choosing how you're going to become a social worker or how you're going to study, do research, ask questions, ask other social workers, ask other students, speak to student advisors. Get really the information, because I did not do that when I applied for distance learning. So for me, everything was just a shock as it happened. I knew that this is the only way I could study at the time. So whatever happens, I have to deal with. Um, Speaking out of experience of speaking to other students, I learned that if you study full time at the university, you get a lot more support, in the sense of finding placements to do your practicals. Having tutors, having all of those things, you have access to that. Whereas distance learning, it's you, yourself, and you. Because, like, I remember coming into this, for me, a lot of it was a shock. You do get together once or twice or so on, depending on which year you are. You get together at the university, you meet the other students, and the biggest shock for me was that you study distance learning. The students you are with have way more experience than you do, or than I did. I never worked in the field, I never had anything like that. So they were already working in the field but in different other positions. They had exposure to the environment, they knew what they were talking about, they knew what the books were talking about. So classes, or what we call workshops that we had, was very intimidating for me, having so many students that were much older than me and much more experienced than me. How I really coped with that is I was the quiet one in class. I would just listen and I would be scribbling down whatever they would be talking about. And then later on, when I go home, I research all of this. And that's how I got through that. The other thing, which was a shock for me, is once it came to applying for practical placements. So the practical placements was, where you get actual experience. You have to go work at an organization or hospital, wherever. Each year of your study, it's something different you have to do. And with distance learning, what we basically got is a letter to say the student is looking for placement, and you had to send it to all these millions of people or organizations and hope for the best. In first year, it was basically very easy for me to get that placement, because first year you just have to do a bit of job shadowing. Nobody really minds if you are there. But later on, when you actually have to do things, it becomes a bit more complicated. So I would say these are all questions you ask before choosing which path you're going to use to study. So I would say, ask what are the requirements that you need. For example, class hours, what are the support you're going to get each year, what are you going to be doing each year, and how is the university going to be helping you in those ventures. What is your responsibility and what is the university's responsibility, things like that. And then look at the things that they say is your responsibility. Research how easy it is for you to do it. Is it going to be a challenge? Is it going to be an option for you? Speak to other social workers, speak to other students from different universities. Get out there and really ask your questions. Be informed before you actually take on that path or choose which path you're going to do. There is various ways of becoming a social worker. I'm not going to get into it because, like I said, I'm not an academic advisor, I'm not a student advisor. I'm not going to be recommending which path you should study or not study, or explaining it, because I'll probably get it wrong. It has been a while since I have been undergrad, so I'm not getting into that, but I do know of at least 3 ways of becoming a social worker. But I would say research. That is for me day 2 of becoming a social worker. After decision day, it is path day, I would call it. How are you gonna do it? How are you gonna go about research? Ask questions, be inquisitive, because I think that's the one thing that I really missed out on doing, because I was so sure I knew what I wanted to do, that I was just like, you know what, and I didn't necessarily have the support behind me. So I had to believe in myself, and because I didn't want to cause any doubt for myself, I wasn't gonna ask all those millions of questions. I was like, I'm doing this and that's it. It's not the best way to go. You do get a lot of cultural shocks along the way, sorry. But I survived. I'm not saying you won't survive, but I'm saying there is easier ways of taking on this journey. It will still be a journey worthwhile either way, but don't cause too much anxiety and stress on yourself, or unnecessarily stress on yourself. When you can just do the research, be prepared. Yes, nothing is going to prepare you the way you should be, but if you can make things easier by knowing more, why not? So that is my piece on, I think, path day is what I'm going to be calling it. Day 2 of being a social worker, choosing your path. So until next time, thank you for watching. I would ask you to subscribe, like, share, continue watching us on this journey. We will talk about it. If there's any questions you have, feel free to hit me up. Thank you.